My name is Sheila. Welcome to the video. We are going to be giving an update on the Moore County power grid attack. For those of you who've been paying attention, yes, we have a substation in the county of Moore in North Carolina. And one of the first things I want to do is to see where we are with Duke Energy's getting that power back on to people. So let me go over to their map here and see if I can pull that up. It changes and updates. And actually, during the time that I was setting all of this up, it decreased the number of people who were still in the midst of this whole power outage. So I've watched the numbers come down just as I've been putting everything together just to do this video. So let's pop over here to the map and see what's going on. And I can give you a little bit more of a layout here. Let me just double check everything is looking like it should look here. All right, so you've got the map there. You see the map. And I am actually up here in Durham. I'm actually right off of I-85. So I've been down to Moore County. It's been a couple of years since I've been down there. And usually I take 501 down to that area. So this is where Moore County is. And just to give people some reference here, if you're familiar with the state of North Carolina, and let me go out just a little bit. If you're familiar with the state of North Carolina, of course, this is the coast here with the Outer Banks. This is what we like to call down east, eastern North Carolina. And of course, this is the triangle here, Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill area. Then we have the triad, which is Greensboro, High Point, Winston-Salem, that area. And then you have the Charlotte, Gastonia area here. Well, Moore County is down here. So let me zoom in just a little bit so you can get a little bit more detail here. So this is the area that we're talking about right here. And as you can see, this number continues to go down. And so I'm really surprised. I'm happy that's happening. I'm really surprised because it is pouring outside. And so I can imagine that if they are getting any of the rain that I'm getting, because I'm not that far away, I'm back up over here. So, well, back up here. So if they're getting any of this same rain that's sort of coming through, I think it's coming in from the west and going sort of eastward, then I could see that sort of disrupting their plan to put everything back together. Now, remember, Moore County has been without power for a few days now. They have had a curfew. They have declared a state of emergency there, trying to keep people indoors and safe. And from what they've been showing on TV, it's just been dark, dark, dark. The lights were out, traffic lights were out, and they were going through quite a bit. Because think about that now. You can't open schools, you can't open businesses. How difficult is it going to be to get to the grocery store and get your, your weekly run in for food and so just basic supplies? What about doctors if you need to get to doctors' offices? So this has been a really tragic event. And I say tragic event, keeping in mind that this was a targeted attack. They have classified this as a criminal action. They have brought in the State Bureau of Investigation. They've also brought in the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and they're treating this as possible domestic terrorism because they said this was targeted. They went to these two substations, and yes, that is where the vandalism occurred. So as you can see here, this area here is where you have most of the residents out of power. And I'll close up in, and you can break it down even more here. So here's the Pinehurst area. You have Aberdeen down here, Carthage further up. So these are Southern Pines. These are a lot of really small communities. This is not a highly urban area. So this is a lot for them to have to go through. This would be a lot for any area to have to go through, to be honest. But to know that someone purposefully decided intentionally that they were going to dismantle the power grid in Moore County is just devastating to that community. So let's see here. I want to pop over to, so before I go to the CNN interview that our governor did, Governor Cooper, I want to pop over to some latest news. Now, you may have heard about, you may have heard that they were actually having some conversations with this one person who had made a comment on, I guess, on Facebook or on social media, one of the platforms, and said something. Let me turn my phone off. And said something about having some knowledge about, God working in mysterious ways or something like that. And so the person had actually made a comment, and given everything that's going on, of course this was something that law enforcement then had to investigate to see, okay, do you know something that we need to know? And so apparently they interviewed the person, and did not find that this person had any specific knowledge about what had happened. But since that time, you know how people are. People will go do their research. If you saw my Balenciaga video, it's the very same thing. People are going to look at what's in the background, which is why, I'm an attorney and I try to be careful about what I have in my background here to make sure I don't have anyone's confidential information out that someone could possibly, blow up and zoom in on to see what it is. So I try to remove all of that. If you're looking at some papers folded over there, that's actually a family tree. That's some genealogy information. But so there is this news article that is now in the news about this same person. And let me click on it here so we can go through what it says. So apparently there was this picture. Let me see if I can find it. It may be further down. There was this picture of Sheriff Ronnie Fields, who is the Moore County Sheriff, and someone went back to 2020, and this was the woman who had made the comment about losing power in Moore County, and having some knowledge about something or some reason why it happened. It says here, Moore County Sheriff Ronnie Fields and Emily Grace Rainey at a Back the Red, White, and Blue event in Southern Pines on October 17, 2020. See what I mean? People will go back and look and dig everything up. So this was 2 years ago. And, you had quite a few people liking it there. Here was the statement that she made. She said, the power is out in Moore County and I know why. And so that's why they then had to follow up. If you know why, then law enforcement is going to be knocking on your door to ask you some follow-up questions about the statement that you made. And it says here, Phil said, and this is a sheriff, we had to go and interview this young lady and have a word of prayer with her. And so it turned out to be nothing. So people are now questioning this picture of him with her. It says, Moore County Sheriff Ronnie Fields answered a reporter's question about Emily Rainey and her social media posts and how they visited her to ask about them and prayed with her and had deemed them to be false. And so, people go, oh, okay, so do you guys have, prior personal relationship, and not, just meaning, do you know each other? And here's the thing. I want to say this because I know some sheriffs in North Carolina. I'm right here in North Carolina. You take pictures with people and people share them on social media all the time, all the time. And I myself have taken pictures with some of the sheriffs in North Carolina, and it is not a big deal. When you are a public official, it is literally part of the job. Like if you pull up the job description, it should be written in there because it is something you have to do on an almost daily basis. So for me to see this and to see some of the news media around this, some of the questioning around this, just a picture alone, I don't think is enough. I understand that people need to ask the question, and I think you do need to ask the question. This is a small town. I'm from a little bit larger town, but when you grow up in a small town, everybody, so it could be possible that he knows her, that he's known her for years. Who knows? But given the fact that this is a small town, given the fact that he is the sheriff, there are going to be pictures of him, with his arms around people saying, hey, yeah. And it was, look at it, it was a Back the Red, White, and Blue event in Southern Pines. Now, I don't know what that event was, but it looks like they were having a good time. He was in uniform, so it looks like he was there in his official capacity, and that it may have been some sort of community event that he was there for. Again, this is part of the job, but I do think that it is appropriate to ask the question. It is a part of the investigative process, and you want to make sure that you aren't jumping to conclusions with information like this, but you also want to make sure that you aren't looking something over. You aren't glossing by something, and that you do want to make sure that you ask the question. So I do think it was an appropriate question, but I think after that, that's about it. Like I said, people take pictures with elected officials all the time. So let me pop back over here. I do want to go to the governor's most recent, I guess, announcement that he had. He's been on CNN a couple of times now because, I mean, really and truly, this is a big deal. And not just for Moore County or not just for North Carolina. I mean, I'm in Durham County, so I'm a little bit farther away, but it speaks to how secure our infrastructure is, how secure our power grid, our utility system is, not just in North Carolina, but across the country. So I bet you right now, since Saturday, you have had utility companies across the country taking a look at their substations and saying, how do we make these more secure? What can we do so that this doesn't happen here? Because think about all of those places that depend on it, and I said a few, schools, grocery stores, but think about hospitals. Think about, people who might be in nursing homes or facilities of that nature, where, having power is a big deal. Now, sure, some of these places may have backup systems, and that's great. But as a utility company, you are now, aware that, hey, we always knew that, we could be a target. But when you see it come home, when you see it come to North Carolina, when you see it come to Moore County, you're going to have people start to say, okay, wow, how do we prevent this from happening? What is it that we can do? So let me pop over to his interviews with CNN. I think the last one was maybe about 20, 21 hours ago. Let me see if I can pull that up so we can hear some of what he was saying in his update about what's going on. Because like I said, this is not just a local or regional concern. This is a national concern about how we protect utilities all across the country. All right, let's see. And actually, I'm going to go to his Facebook page here. And this is our governor here, Governor Roy Cooper. He is actually in his second term, which will be his last term here in North Carolina. Let me make sure you guys can see everything correctly good. You can get a good look at that there. So he did an interview with CNN.
Families trying to get kids to school, waking up in the dark, schools closed. You've called this a critical attack, and I wonder this morning what you can tell us about the investigation into who targeted these substations.
Well, good morning, guys. Thank you very much. People in Moore County, North Carolina are hurting this morning. This was a malicious criminal attack on the entire community that plunged tens of thousands of people into darkness.
And you see the numbers when he did this, the numbers were still pretty high, and now they've gone down even lower than that. You saw that on the grid that I showed you earlier, and we'll go back to that in just a minute. But glad that they were showing the power outage.
Our priorities now are health and safety, getting the power back on as quickly as possible, and making sure that federal, state, and local law enforcement find out who did this and why, and bring them to justice.
So yeah, look at how dark that picture is. Look at how dark that is. So a couple of the stations were, broadcasting live from Moore County, and they were saying, the traffic lights are out, the street lights are out. So not only is it just an inconvenience, it is actually a dangerous situation to be in because people cannot see. She said the only thing that was putting out light would be the headlights of the cars that were going by.
They've had to cancel school now for 2 days in a row. Businesses are losing money. We provided sheltering for people, working with local officials, mass feeding, bathroom facilities, lighting for street intersections. I was there yesterday and all of the traffic lights are out. So you worry about safety and making sure that people are okay. This is a retirement community, so there are a lot of adult care homes that do not have power. We're providing generators and help to make sure that people are safe here. But there's a deep concern in this community about who would do such a thing and why they would do it. I visited the substation yesterday with Duke Energy officials. They are working around the clock to get the power back on. Right now, Thursday is the deadline that they believe that they can make. They're going to try to do it earlier, but they're.
So yeah, so today is Wednesday. So tomorrow is the day that they're trying to get all of this back on. And so let me pop back over to our map there just to sort of see again, because he was showing there, I think he was saying it was down to 30,000. So think about that. Now, this county only has about 99,000 people in it. So it's not an overly large county. So there you can see, and let me scroll back out a little bit because that was sort of where I left it. So yeah, so this is sort of the breakdown. 6, 7, 8. So yeah, I think it's come down considerably even since I first got on. Yeah, it's definitely we're at 8 and 2. So yeah, it's definitely still coming down. They're getting the work done and they're turning the power back on. Now, the interesting thing is what is going to happen when they finally find the culprit, because they are considering this to be a criminal action. I mean, you would have to. It's not an accident. Someone intentionally caused this harm. So let's pop back over again to our governor to see what else he had to say about this.
Having to bring in new equipment, and the state, local, and federal law enforcement officials, I met with them yesterday. They are working diligently, leaving no stone unturned to find out who did this.
You say you went to one of the substations with Duke Power to look at what did you see? Because I think I certainly am having a hard time envisioning what does it look like when someone shoots at a substation. What did you see?
Yeah. Well, there are thousands of these substations across the country. And I think what happened here is going to cause us to reassess protection and hardening of infrastructure.
Right.
If someone with a firearm can do this much damage and get power out to tens of thousands of people, then obviously we need to look at the different layers of infrastructure and hardening and make better decisions here.
So yeah, so one of the things that they had talked about was the gate being down. And so yeah, so in addition to shooting it up, they were actually able to take that gate down, which speaks again to how secure this was and how they can now take a look at this and say, okay, we've got to step up our game here, across the board. And like he just said, it's not just a Moore County thing. It speaks to the utility infrastructure, not just locally and statewide, but nationally. This is a big concern. But that's pretty much it. I'm not going to run through his whole spill there, but I did want to give an update on what was going on and this whole sort of idea, that this has been shut down. Hopefully it's going to be back up tomorrow. I'll come back in with another update. We've taken a look at the question about the sheriff and this young woman. Does not seem to be anything to that at this time. And hopefully the SBI and the FBI are following up on leads. Because think about it. This is a small community. It is very unlikely that somebody from far away drove all the way down to Moore County and decided, this is the place that I'm going to do this. Of course, that could have happened, but it just doesn't, it doesn't seem like that would be the case. And I think what I may have read earlier was something like, yeah, they suspect that it's from someone who knows that area, well enough to be able to get this done. But that's it. We'll check back in soon on Moore County, wishing those people so much love, wishing them, all of the best, and praying for their speedy recovery and getting their system back up and going. So don't forget to like the video, give it a thumbs up. Let me know about your concerns about infrastructure in the comments if you've been following this along, and peace.